People often whisper to each other, "No one has ever regretted visiting the Netherlands." Imagine waking up one morning in the world's freshest air, enjoying breakfast in Amsterdam, and leisurely catching an afternoon train for a romantic dinner in Belgium. No noisy car horns, only the rhythmic turning of bicycle wheels gliding through endless stretches of lush green parks. But behind this perfect picture of a carefree life, where people enjoy themselves to the fullest, there are quiet, hidden corners that few tourists notice. Is the Netherlands truly a paradise, or just a beautiful dream fraught with unspoken inconveniences? Let's explore them below. A tiny country, yet possessing immense appeal. There is a land in Europe that possesses a strange allure, like an invisible magnet that mesmerizes anyone who hears its name for the first time. That is the Netherlands, one of the most sought-after countries in Europe, so attractive that people from all over the world yearn to live there or enjoy a vacation. Despite its relatively modest size, covering only about 41,000 square kilometers, many may have heard that the Netherlands area is roughly the same as the city of Konya in Turkey. The Netherlands has a population of around 18 million, roughly the same size as Istanbul. Its capital is Amsterdam, one of the world's leading cities in the truest sense of the word, because whenever the Netherlands is mentioned, Amsterdam immediately comes to mind. Life in the Netherlands revolves around Amsterdam, and there seems to be an unwritten rule that anyone who has visited the country but hasn't been to the capital hasn't really been there. The cultural shock of coffee in the wallet. Furthermore, the Dutch people are incredibly open-minded and relaxed. If this is your first time in the Netherlands and you see signs that say coffee shop, don't assume it's just an ordinary cafe, because the interior might surprise you. Of course, you'll often hear people call the Netherlands the land of freedom. Here, there are almost no limits on issues ranging from freedom of speech and dress code to same-sex marriage. Also, a small note about shopping. Credit cards aren't very popular, especially in shops outside Amsterdam. Carrying cash is mandatory. A place where no one has ever regretted visiting. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe that the Dutch not only know how to enjoy a comfortable life, but also possess strong willpower and an extremely solid educational foundation. Before delving into the details of life here, I can confidently say that almost no one who comes to the Netherlands regrets it. Therefore, if you are harboring a dream of going abroad, do not hesitate to put the Netherlands at the top of your list. Because the Netherlands is not only geographically safe, but also successfully satisfies almost everyone thanks to its excellent quality of life. Perhaps the only thing that might bother you slightly is the climate. But in terms of air quality and oxygen levels, the Netherlands is still one of the countries with the cleanest air in the world. Breakfast in the Netherlands, dinner in Belgium. No joke. Geographically, nature has generously placed the Netherlands to the north and west, bordering the vast North Sea, while the south borders Belgium and the east borders Germany, creating a remarkably seamless connection. This seamless connection means that those living in the Netherlands frequently travel between Germany and Belgium as an inseparable part of their daily routine. As you know, European countries are connected by an incredibly convenient railway system. The smooth sailing trains across borders offer a romantic privilege, allowing you to enjoy breakfast in the Netherlands in the early morning mist, and then leisurely savor a delicious dinner in Belgium as the sun sets. The magical door connecting Europe and home. If you have economic ambitions and want to earn more money, and for that reason you find the US or UK more attractive, don't forget this advantage of the Netherlands. Living in the Netherlands is much more appealing for those who still have family and friends back home in Turkey. Compared to flying from the US to Turkey, you not only find much cheaper airfare but also shorter geographical distances, allowing you to visit loved ones more frequently. For example, someone needing to travel urgently to Turkey from any US state would have to spend 12 to 13 hours traveling, while flying from the Netherlands only takes about 2 to 3 hours. Furthermore, someone living in the Netherlands can travel throughout Europe without worrying about visa issues. Therefore, the Netherlands is an extremely good choice for both tourism and work purposes. The formula for prosperity: fewer people, higher quality. In fact, one of the main reasons European countries have such high levels of prosperity is their small population. European families typically have only 1 or 2 children. This allows families to provide their children with a better quality of life, offering them the best clothes, the best education, and the most enriching activities. These children receive a good education from a young age, and as they grow up, they integrate into society as talented individuals who contribute to their country. As a result, the nation isn't overwhelmed by a massive population, its administrators don't have to worry about traffic congestion, and the police aren't constantly complaining about falling crime rates. Simultaneously, unemployment decreases, those with jobs are less likely to resort to theft, and consequently, the crime rate naturally declines. Fear of layoffs, a foreign concept in the Netherlands. Returning to the positive aspects of this country, a person working in the Netherlands rarely has to worry about whether they will be laid off after a few months. This is because the Netherlands has an extremely stable economy. No matter what happens, as long as you do your job well and value your livelihood, after finding a job in the Netherlands, you are very unlikely to become unemployed. This means that if you work for a company, they won't lay you off before you've worked for a full year due to downsizing, or complain about rising costs or losses to make things difficult for employees. This is perhaps one of the most positive realities when talking about the Netherlands. Once you have a job, you can confidently plan your finances without fear. If you want to buy a car or furnish your home, you don't have to worry about what your life will be like 8 months from now. People entering the supermarket don't have to hesitate about whether to buy this item, whether to cut back on their child's milk and diapers, or whether to skip eating meat this month to pay rent more comfortably. Friends, whether you're a sanitation worker or a waste paper collector, in the Netherlands, if you work hard, no one has to suffer from hunger. The peace was so overwhelming it was shocking for city dwellers. Furthermore, while serious crimes are more common in places like the US, the Netherlands is one of the safest and most secure places in Europe. Another factor contributing to the Netherlands' appeal is its small population. For example, if you've lived for many years in crowded places like Istanbul, Izmir, or Ankara and then moved to the Netherlands, you might experience culture shock. Therefore, in the Netherlands, even if you don't have a car initially, getting around is never a chore. If you're looking for peace and quiet and don't want to be constantly surrounded by crowds, the Netherlands has a huge advantage in this regard. A paradise of clean and healthy food from a tiny nation. Another advantage is the strong purchasing power for basic necessities, especially meat and dairy products, in the Netherlands. No matter what profession they have, people can buy food from any supermarket they like without having to search for cheap brands. There's also something else, which you might think I'm exaggerating, but the taste of vegetables like tomatoes, cucumbers, and even dairy products in the Netherlands is truly unique. Studies have also shown that the nutritional value of food produced in the Netherlands is very high. If you look closely, the Netherlands, with an area only the size of the city of Konya, is a global food exporter. They practice high-tech agriculture and quality control processes, resulting in truly excellent tasting products. This may seem like a small detail, but when you can access high-quality products at reasonable prices and experience them firsthand, you'll feel incredibly happy. Eating well and using good products will make your daily life more enjoyable and productive. Green spaces, a privilege that doesn't need to be fought for. On the other hand, one of the most beautiful aspects of the Netherlands is that its urban areas are not haphazardly planned. For example, if you have young children and want to take them outside for some fresh air, to the park to play, or you want to take a walk and find a green space, in the Netherlands, almost every house has a green space and park next to it. People don't have to crowd into a single green area nestled in the city center to find some fresh air. In any Dutch city, you don't have to queue to let your children play on swings, nor do you have to endure crowds just to breathe fresh air, because parks are everywhere and you can walk to them very quickly. The Kingdom of Bicycles and Standardized Planning. The Netherlands is a country with a deep respect for nature, boasting vast green spaces. Similarly, the houses are neatly arranged. You'll rarely see narrow streets or chaotic jumbled buildings. Dutch cities are attractive not only for their unique architecture, but also for their orderly planning, making every corner of the country a perfect backdrop for a beautiful photograph. Speaking of order, the Netherlands has such an extensive network of bicycle lanes that you can cycle across the entire country. No matter which city you live in, there are dedicated bike lanes on the streets, and people use bicycles more than you might imagine. When bosses have to depend on employees and are free to switch jobs, furthermore, when a country's population decreases, business owners can't easily exploit others. Because when the population is too large, the value of human resources is often diminished. In the Netherlands, employees don't have to depend on their employers. Rather, it's the employers who need the employees. For example, with a job that provides insurance, no one can force you to work more than 8 hours a day and 40 hours a week. If necessary, they will have to add it to your salary. Last year, the number of unemployed people in the Netherlands was even lower than the number of job postings. For instance, if you studied accounting but no longer want to work in that field and want to switch to a different career path, you can easily find a job in a new field. People aren't forced to choose a profession based on the country's needs, nor do they have the mentality of doing anything as long as there's work. This means that Dutch people don't have to grit their teeth and endure a job they dislike just to make a living. Therefore, in terms of the job market, the Netherlands offers countless alternatives, and you can find work in almost any field. The 30% rule, a financial gift from the government. There's a secret deep within the workings of Dutch society, an economic privilege that makes foreign workers feel like they've been granted a passport to a world of absolute prosperity and security. The Netherlands also has another great advantage related to employment. If you've secured a job, meaning a company sponsors you, the Dutch government implements a very favorable policy, a 30% tax exemption on your earnings. To illustrate this generosity, imagine the government taxing someone earning 3,000 euros as if they were only earning 2,100 euros, significantly reducing their tax burden. This is known as the 30% rule in the Netherlands, a term that sounds dry but hides enormous benefits. And that's not all. The respect for people is further demonstrated by the fact that anyone with insurance coverage in this country is entitled to 28 days of annual leave, a long enough period to set aside worries and live each moment to the fullest. Where English is the all-purpose passport. When you arrive in the Netherlands, another issue that might concern you is language. As you know, the official language of the Netherlands is Dutch, not English. However, to work, whether as a skilled or unskilled laborer, to make friends and integrate into life, you don't necessarily need to speak their native language. Remember, in Germany, German was eventually mandatory. Just as in France, knowing French is necessary in most situations. But in the Netherlands, with good English skills, you can easily integrate into the community and find a job in your field. That's because almost everyone, from the police officer to the barber, can communicate in English. The hidden enemy, unannounced reigns. Behind the glamorous facade of one of the world's most livable countries lies a somber dark side that can make even the most dreamy souls hesitate, questioning the true perfection of this paradise. Now, let's talk a little about the shortcomings of the Netherlands, where, despite the high-quality, oxygen-rich air, paradoxically, rain doesn't just fall during the cold winter months, but can drizzle throughout the seemingly glorious summer. The dampness pervades the air due to the frequently overcast skies, making it difficult to plan outings. And even the happiest moments of a romantic date become fragile because a sudden downpour can catch them off guard. This scene explains why Dutch streets are often not too crowded, bearing a melancholic and deserted air, because people are always apprehensive that rain could fall at any moment. So they often choose to stay indoors, quietly watching the world through windows soaked with rainwater. The misery of finding a home repairman and the exorbitant cost of transportation. Another problem is that in the Netherlands, it's difficult to find skilled tradespeople for home repairs, gardening, or furniture installation. For example, if you buy furniture from a store, they might charge an extra delivery fee. If you don't want to pay, they'll tell you to transport it yourself. Or if the roof suddenly leaks, a water pipe bursts, or a garden fence breaks, you can't just make a phone call and have a skilled tradesperson come right away like in Turkey. Dutch people tend to focus on standardized tasks, so finding a skilled tradesperson for minor repairs is quite difficult. Therefore, people often go to sites like YouTube to watch videos and try to fix things themselves. Or, suppose you work in a Dutch factory on a two-shift system. Someone who finishes work at 10 or 11 o'clock at night might not be able to find public transport. Especially in smaller cities outside of Amsterdam, you can encounter significant problems with train and bus schedules. Furthermore, even for short distances, transportation costs in the Netherlands can be quite high. A simple public transport ride can cost you 4 to 5 euros. This is why many people find cycling a sensible option and have switched to using bicycles. Living with insects and strange neighbors. Furthermore, I mentioned how much the Netherlands values the environment and nature, with green spaces everywhere. This can also bring inconveniences, as the Netherlands has countless types of flies, mosquitoes, insects, spiders, and other small animals. The authorities don't spray pesticides to protect the ecological balance. Therefore, when you come to the Netherlands, you need to adapt and get used to this downside of living close to nature. Dutch society views animals as part of nature, and they don't take any action to eliminate them from their lives. Or, if you rent a house with a garden in the Netherlands and plan to enjoy the outdoors with your family, right next door, someone might be having a cannabis party. This means that when you come to the Netherlands, there's a very high chance your neighbors could be a same-sex couple, a transgender person, or a cannabis addict. Ladies and gentlemen, the question you need to ask yourself is whether you can accept this when traveling with your family. The cost problem, salaries and expensive bills. An invisible nightmare lurks in every corner of these idyllic streets, a harsh reality about the price to pay for breathing the air of freedom here, making even the most dreamers break out in a cold sweat when they look at their end-of-month bills. Furthermore, as of 2022, rent in the Netherlands had skyrocketed like a storm sweeping through the tranquility, especially if you aspire to live in Amsterdam and its surroundings, where the price for a two-bedroom, one-living-room apartment ranges from 1,500 to 2,000 euros. And the worries don't stop there. Pressure also weighs heavily on essential living needs. For electricity and gas, the Netherlands has very strict fixed quota agreements with distribution companies. And if you sign a contract and accidentally exceed this limit, you will have to pay more as an economic penalty. A practical example shows that an average family of 3 pays around 130 to 140 euros per month for electricity and gas with their contracted company. These numbers accumulate, wearing down savings, as you'll similarly spend around 70 to 80 euros on internet and water bills. This doesn't even include the mandatory health insurance required in the Netherlands, which costs an equally expensive 140 euros per month. Try a simple but shocking calculation. If a family of 2 only eats out once a week and cooks at home the rest of the time, adding up all the expenses, their monthly spending would exceed 2,500 euros. A huge sum considering the minimum wage in the Netherlands is only 1,750 euros before tax. Of course, all these costs are calculated based on a life of comfort, with no need to skimp on food and living in beautiful homes. So for a family to live comfortably in the Netherlands is truly a challenging survival problem in the heart of glamorous Europe. Every journey eventually comes to an end, and our exploration concludes here. If you wish to continue exploring countries like Brazil, Uzbekistan, Bhutan, or discover mysterious prisons and strange occurrences that even scientists cannot explain, please visit our channel to learn more about other fascinating countries. Since videos with many likes are prioritized, if you enjoyed this video, please like, leave a comment, and share it with your loved ones so that our channel can grow and we can create even more interesting and engaging videos about other countries. Now, goodbye and see you in the next video. Thank you and see you again soon.